Right, so I'm going to be doing something a bit different this week. And before you click off, it's something you probably are actually going to kind of dig. So, yeah. See, I've been watching a lot of Bill making stuff recently. This guy, if you aren't familiar with Bill, then I'd be honestly really surprised because he's a much bigger channel than me. And yeah, you could kind of look at this as me making piggyback content if you're a cynic, if you're not very nice. But no, it's not that. It's not that at all. Because, as I say, I've been watching a ton of Bill making stuff recently with Jenny. It's become our sort of nighttime watch before we go to bed. And I've become really inspired, especially by the scratch-built robots and tanks that Bill makes over on his channel. So before we even get into this video, thanks, Bill. Yeah, it's really nice to be inspired by a creator that does things very differently to what you do. I'm used to working with, precision kits, completely pre-made kits, and a lot of them are quite complicated, quite detailed. So there's not a lot I have to do to them myself. And because of the nature of the kind of content Bill does, everything's made from junk and scrap. And that's exactly what we're going to try and do today. We're going to try and make a tonk, which is a tank that fits within Bill's world that he's created and the canon that he has for that. And yeah, we're going to attempt a very small amount of narrative around it because, again, that's something that Bill does. And I think, if we want to honor Bill with this video, then we should try and do things, kind of how he does them. So, yeah, we'll get straight into some down cam and I'll sort of talk about ideas as much as I talk about what I'm doing and we'll give this all a bit of a go. Okay, so I'm going to start out here with some EVA foam sheets. And these are going to form a lot of the just basic structure. You can see here I'm drawing on one of the sides of my tank first of all, just freehanding that in and then cutting it out and just kind of rough at first and then come in and make it a bit nicer. Realising that I had the settings completely wrong on my camera, I'm now going to trace around this one and use it to form the base of another one. Look at that. Really bad camera magic. Wasn't even camera magic. I also need a sort of main body for the tank, so again some thick old EVA foam comes to the rescue for that job, and just sort of carve in some basic shape into it. And one of the lovely things about EVA foam is it takes super glue. Super glue doesn't melt it, doesn't bother it, doesn't upset it. So you can see here I can just glue my sides onto my main body, and eventually it starts to look like possibly the basic shape of a tonk or a tank. There you go. So that's the sides on the body, and I think this is going to work well for what I have planned. I'll need to get some wheels on the sides. So first of all, I'm starting off with these 25mm slotter bases. They seem like a good thing to use for like big wheels. And yeah, just 3 of those on each side. And then just some little bits from my various Games Workshop plastics bits box. Fun little added fact. Oh, here's a bit of wood as well. This ends up being completely GW tournament legal by the end because the only plastic bits that I put on it that aren't scratch bashed are from GW kits. So that's pretty fun. There might be one thing, but I want to now start bulking up that body a bit more. So there's a little raised platform, again, just more EVA foam. It's amazing what you can get away with EVA foam. I found this little towel gunnery turret thing, and I thought that'd look good as a kind of viewport, but first I wanted to smooth up the frontage. So you can see here I'm just scoring some cardboard and then folding it around the frontage just to make those lines a bit sharper, a bit smoother, a bit tastier. Before then, I can now clip away at my little thing and stick it on where it needs to go. Looking pretty good so far. I'm pretty happy with progress. I want a little window to go inside that viewport thing, so just more of that thin card, and you can see that looks great. That works absolutely fine. And now I need to start putting together a turret. So I raided the recycling for an old milk bottle top, another 32mm base I think this time, and another bit of that 25mm MDF that I'd laser cut previously. And you can see that just glues on there to form my turret. Bit of a setting spray with the accelerator, and we're golden. Looking good so far. So this is really thin EVA foam now. I think it's about 2mm, and I'm going to use this to make tracks because of course it's super flexible, and I just need to cut some strips first of all. 2 strips, one for each track, and then a 3rd strip to cut up into the little sort of tread parts on the track. So you can see me sort of carefully trying to cut these to roughly the same size. This is Tonks, you know, it's supposed to look scratch bashed, it's supposed to look a bit junky, so didn't have to be too exact, but gluing these on, God, it was tedious. Not the most fun I've ever had in my life. While they're drying, I'm now just trying to detail some of this paneling a bit, trying to just not have too many kind of flat, boring areas, so using cardboard to build things up. And also built a little scoop for the front. These are old Dreadnought claws from a Blood Angels Dreadnought. And obviously I don't play Warhammer, so I'm not going to need them. So they're going to form the basis of a bucket scoop. I build a little frame for that using sprue and coffee stirrers, and then just glue it all together. And that actually ends up being one of my favourite parts of this build. You can see here I did have to reinforce it with a bit of extra super glue because it didn't quite want to stick at first, but we got there in the end. And yeah, check it out. It's actually starting to look like a real thing. You can see the tracks are now on. I did make a little mistake here, which is why one of those greeblies off the top has gone missing. It got in the way of the tracks, so I had to pull it off. But now I want to make some fairings, so I'm just going to trace with my knife onto some balsa wood here, just to tell me where I need the curves to be, and then score with that same knife. And that's going to let me put these nice little bends in, which will then make it sit perfectly on top of the tracks and look like a nice little fairing. I also wanted sort of an engine cover area because I was planning to put an engine on the back of it. I don't think I can actually show making the engine because it's all really basic, but you can see here again just balsa wood, coffee stirrers. That gets me an engine cover. And then it's greebly-ing time, just greebly-ing up the place. Just found lots of little old Warhammer bits for this. I don't have the advantage of a big sort of trash collection, so a lot of my greeblies had to come from kind of Warhammer bits, but I do have a few crafting supplies which we do include later on. But this is the one bit that isn't from a Warhammer kit. These are some CO cast little jerry cans. I think they're from Reaper Miniatures, but you'd probably get away with that, wouldn't you? And I did need a cannon, so I grabbed some of these brush protectors, the things that come off of new paintbrushes, squashed a couple of them together, added this little, again, this is something off some Warhammer kit. Comment below if you know what kit it comes from, because I don't. A little washer on the end of all that, and that forms sort of the basis of a cannon. Bit of foam to sort of blend it into the turret. Again, this is that thin EVA foam just coming in clutch. And yeah, with a bit of trimming, a bit of fitting. That goes on nicely. Oh, rhinestone rivets, yeah, everybody's favourite. What they don't tell you in these craft videos is, God, this is frustrating to do. Bill does a lot of this in his, and he's a brave man. So at last now, we've got something that's looking a bit like this, and you could call that a finished tank ready for painting, but I want to put some organic bits on mine, and so here you're now going to see me making some Grilliput, green stuff Milliput mixture. This is most people's favourite sculpting material for miniatures, sort of equal parts of green stuff and Milliput just mixed together. And here I am applying those organic areas, just stretching out bits of this putty and laying it over. I wanted to be sort of skin growths kind of thing, and when I explain the lore in a bit, that'll make a bit more sense to you. So here you can see I'm just texturing things with a tool. I've got a ball stylus here to sort of make some little divots, and some of these I end up filling with like pearls to make kind of pustules, and some of them I leave just as little pit holes, potholes, acne, whatever you want to call it. There we go. How much better does that look now? Well, look, I'm having a really good time. I hope you are as well. This is, I have to point out, so different for me. And I think that's why it's really fun. If you are a miniature painter, I've got to say, like, as miniature painters, sometimes we kind of hyper focus on the painting of the model specifically, right? And obviously, who can blame us? That's the part that we find the most fun. But actually kind of getting your hands in there and making the model from scratch, you get to consider and imagine how you're going to paint it as you're going. And I think that's part of what makes scratch bashing and sculpting and things like that so intriguing to me. So what I'm going to do now is, as I said, you know, we want to honour Bill with this video. He's been the inspiration for it. I'm not trying to hide behind that. So painting time with Bill is boring time with Bill, and boring time with Bill is story time with Bill. But painting isn't boring for me, of course. I love painting. It's my favourite. It's kind of what I'm here on YouTube to do. But because we want to honour Bill, I'm going to try to come up with a little bit of lore now whilst we paint this thing. I'm not amazingly well-versed in Bill's world building that he's done for all of his various different projects. Gutterlands is what he calls it. I was trying to think of it then. I was trying to stall you for time while I thought of it, and I've now thought of it. Gutterlands. I know a bit about it. Like, obviously, I watch Bill's videos. I've only been watching Bill's videos for a couple of months, but I think I know enough about it to come up with something interesting. So yeah, I'm going to have a go at some lore. Okay, so this thing originally started off life as, well, just an ordinary tank. And it was involved long, long ago in a big battle somewhere around the foothills of Made Mountain. As you can see, I'm starting to stipple on all sorts of rusty colours here, and that could be a clue as to who this originally belongs to, but maybe not. Of course, the Rusters do live very close to Made Mountain, so yeah, they're a possibility as being the original owners, but not necessarily true. It's kind of unknown, as often things in the Gutterlands when it comes to history are quite hard to keep track of. But there was this huge battle at the foot of Made Mountain, and this tank was disabled, but not destroyed. Now, another hint at who originally owned it could be this military green colour scheme that's starting to appear. But again, you know, we just don't know. So over the years of this tank just sitting there and rusting away even more, obviously all of the meat and the tumor around Made Mountain were starting to sort of grow and pulsate and make their way further south, as they're often inclined to do, and eventually the meat started to grow over this tank, and very quickly the meat found the entrance inside the tank. So although on the outside you see that there's only a few growths, should point out here that I am doing an oil wash, by the way, because Bill always does an oil wash, and I've been an advocate of oils for years, so yeah. But anyway, so there's not a lot of growth on the outside of the tank, but that's because the meat found its way inside and very quickly started to grow and expand and fill the inside of this tank. Now, as the meat was growing, you know that obviously the meat from Made Mountain, all of these different organic materials, they have a degree of intelligence to them, and it realised that not only was the tank in fact not disabled, but it could actually move it. So this Made Mountain organism, if you will, decided to start rolling around in this tank, effectively giving itself armour. And for some reason, the more it grew into this tank, the more it started to develop a hatred of Rusters. So it particularly stayed in the southern foothills of Made Mountain and made it his life's work to bother and harass and generally upset rusters. Now, not all of this was a good thing for the meat that invaded the tank, because over time it realised that it couldn't quite meld or combine quite fully with the inorganic material of the tank. It was just living in that space, and all of that rust and nastiness of an old tank started to cause it to go a bit putrid. So now it's a bit crazy, it's a bit unsure what it's doing with itself, and it's very angry. It doesn't really like rusters at all, and so it just sort of roams the foothills, being a massive nuisance. So that there is my attempt at a story, at a build in the style of Bill making stuff, and at just trying something new to push myself outside of my comfort zone. It's something that, as I try and pass information on to you lot and hopefully help you grow as painters, I've found more and more important over the years. Just doing the same stuff you've always done in the same way you've always done it is largely going to produce the same results. And so I wanted to just get in front of a camera today, very little planning, and just pour some raw inspiration out into YouTube. So again, I want to send huge thanks to Bill. I hope that if he does see this, he understands that it is, a tribute to him, a show of gratitude for his creativity, because I really do think there's genius in his vision, his ability to see disparate bits of junk and turn them into something that always ends up looking cool. Like I said, if you want to be nasty about it, or if you want to be, a bit negative about it, I guess you might want to view this as a bit of a rip-off video, me trying to copy someone else's YouTube style. And I don't hide from that, it is to a degree, but just so long as you understand that it comes from a place of appreciation and admiration for that content creator. So I hope you enjoyed something a little bit different here today. If you want more traditional mini painting related videos, product reviews, tech reviews, and all that kind of thing, then obviously you're going to want to stick around. So drop a subscription to the channel, hit the notification bell maybe, so that YouTube tells you when I post new videos. Of course, you can like, you can subscribe, you can share, you can do all that stuff. You can check Patreon below if you want to support me. That's as little as £1 a month, and there's all sorts of little bonus extras. We are also going to have some tutorials that are Patreon exclusive coming up soon, as we focus more on the learning side of stuff again. So it's another little thing to look forward to if you're a patron. Big thanks to patrons. Big thanks to, again, Bill Making Stuff. And big thanks to you, the miniature hobby community, because you're all bloody lovely. And that's what makes it so fun to stick around and do all of this stuff. So I'm going to go now. I hope you enjoyed the tonk. Here's some nice reveal footage of it just before I leave, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, folks.